What's up, everybody? I'm Scott.
And I'm Jason.
To Liquid Carnage. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm good. I had a great weekend. We got some things done around the house, so that was good. And then, of course, I get to have my weekly conversation with my good brosif. What can be better?
It's right. This is always what I look forward to. We normally record on Monday, so it's a nice way to start
the week. You're right.
Exactly.
It was a very, very busy, a very good weekend. I messed around and accidentally won $130 on FanDuel.
This weekend?
This weekend.
Well,
yeah.
I talked to someone, Scott, and they said that you should really test your theory and try to withdraw the money because that's your money.
Yeah, no, I've used that. Actually, I won this money on some other. So I can't draw it. I just have to set it up. It is now my money.
I've spent enough. However you deposited your money, you should be able to take it out the same way.
Yeah. So I am in the process of sitting down to do that at some point this week. I just thought it was funny. I messed around and was able to get winnings on some random football games as we go through this online gambling stuff. I still am not a major fan of it. I won't do it long term, but I have learned do not bet on your teams.
Actually, my team was your team, our team, the Cardinals, was the only game that I did pick correctly.
You see, and on DraftKings, I took one of those prop bets that Kyler would have more than 3 touchdowns, either rushing and passing.
Yeah.
And I lost $15 on that, but it would have paid out 65 had I won. So.
Oh wow! Okay.
Just the things you learn as you go. But
there you go.
Fall is in full swing.
Yes.
The world is probably as open as it's going to get at this point. And so that means soccer season for Janice's girls is in full swing. It's their first year playing soccer.
Oh. So how are they liking it so far?
The oldest likes it. She says she likes it. But she and I have had the talk that her sister is super athletic. And at 6 years old, you can already tell is a very gifted athlete. She has a nonstop motor that will make her run. I tell you what, on Saturday, she ran up and down that U8 soccer game and caught everybody and was able to get more breakaways than any other kid. But you could just tell when she got tired and she doesn't have proper coaching yet, so she doesn't quite know what to do. So for her second soccer game ever, she did pretty well. But her coach is kind of a pud and schedules practices at 3 p.m. when nobody can get off work. So her practice is limited. So it's a little difficult.
Okay.
Jocelyn,
Jocelyn's the older one. Yeah.
The older one, she's still learning, and she knows she's not the athletic one, and she's got to work at it. And she's still trying to find her aggressive streak. And she's a whole lot smaller than the other players on the field. So it's an adjustment. We were driving home on Saturday because her mom had to go to work, so it was her and I. And I said, so did you have fun? Because it looks like you played hard. She goes, yeah. But by the end of the first half, I just kept wondering when it was going to be over. I was just done. Yeah. I was like, but you said you like playing? She says, I do. But I was just wondering when it was going to be over because, I was just done. Like, okay. So there's not that athletic killer instinct in you yet, but at least you're out there exercising, so I can't argue.
Yeah, and some people, let's be honest, I know a lot of people that never watch football on Sundays. Never.
Yeah.
Like
those
it's a waste of
psychopaths.
It's a waste of 6 hours to them. So I get it. Some people that's not their thing.
And that's fine. I mean, everyone can get it, but you learn things as you get older, especially about yourself. I know we've talked about this off and on over the years. The things we find out about ourselves, living our lives as we go, often surprise us for things that we didn't think we'd ever like, say, or do. We find ourselves liking, saying, and doing these days,
Well, and what we didn't like, it's kind of like our food taste. What I didn't like to eat when I was a kid changed and morphed into something I love to eat now. Yeah. Same with sports, same with any activity, right? I mean, you get your kids involved so maybe they'll spark an interest, but a lot of times they won't get that interest in them until they're adults.
Oh, yeah. Our EP, Tom, hated sports until he moved to Phoenix. Then he had Cardinal season tickets and, he was going to baseball games and NASCAR. And now he's just, it's part of his world. So you can grow into it.
Yeah.
And same with food, man. I have more arguments with these two kids about that they do actually like cheese in spite of what they think, because they insist on wanting pizza all of the time.
Yeah, there you go, right there.
And tacos and pizza and all the things that have cheese on it. And we've had to distinguish over the last 6 months of us living together that not all cheese is pizza cheese, and there are other cheeses that taste just as good as pizza cheese.
You get a preconceived notion, right? I mean,
yeah.
You get a preconceived notion of what you do or don't like. And unfortunately, they can sometimes limit your life too. Because you think you don't like something when in actuality, if you gave it a shot, you might love it.
Oh, absolutely, man. And then there's other things, other activities. You find yourself in the midst of realizing that you're that person, someone that you said you'd never be, but you're that person. And I had that experience this weekend too, watching Jocelyn's soccer game. I realized that I am one of those parents that yell and go up and down the field when they're playing, because I get into the game.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Scott.
It's just one of those, like, it's not intentional. It's just,
so when you're going up and down the sideline though, what are you doing? Are you just like cheering?
Yeah, cheering. Just her coach is a good friend of ours. You know her, Kristen. You've known Kristen for a long time. Used to work with her, I think.
Yeah.
And she's the coach, and she's patient with me, thank God. But I'm not nearly as loud as some of the other parents. I was going to say coaches out of instinct, but you just find yourself, you get into the game, you get excited, you want the girls to do good, and you see a lot more on the field than their 10-year-old minds can process as fast as you can.
Okay.
So
yeah, but did you think that the little girl was embarrassed?
No, I think she's learned that's just part of how it's going to be, because last week and before the game, her game got canceled last week because of the weather. She asked if I can make sure her mom didn't do that. And I said, yeah, not a problem. The game got canceled last week. And then I found out this week that I, too, cannot sit in my chair and just watch.
Okay. Well, you've learned something new about yourself. Congratulations, Scott.
But I did yell myself hoarse.
How do you feel, buddy? How do you feel?
I felt good with it, because by the time I got to the second game, my voice was gone. So I didn't yell. I just watched.
You know what? I think it also shows just a tremendous amount of willingness to grow as a person, Scott, that you've come up with this, or you've established this as a possible thing for you. And I love that about you, buddy.
Yeah. I do enjoy coaching. I think it's a lot of fun. People do forget that before this life I'm in now, I did have a previous life where I coached Little League Baseball with my ex and her son.
So, that's right. Yep.
And I am used to this life, and I have done it before on a different level. And I don't mind yelling at kids playing a game. I don't mind it so much. In fact, our buddy JP has asked me to be the assistant baseball coach for the middle school baseball team this spring, which he will be the head coach of.
Oh, wow. That's exciting.
Yeah. So while he is the head coach, I will be the assistant coach of teenage boys trying to figure out how to play baseball this year.
Maybe groom the next Tarek Skubal or something.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? It all starts with a coach, right? Someone had to start and motivate. I watch a lot of these football lives.
Yes.
And I've always found that the coaches who believed in someone or made a difference in someone's life, and through the rest of that person's football career or sports career, they talk about, yeah, this one coach believed in me when no one else did.
That's what you need in life in general. Sometimes it's more than just sports. You just need somebody to believe in you in general, and keep reminding you in general that you can do things and you are capable of. And I think that's what relationships are for. It's for your other half to constantly remind you of that.
Well, and if you look at it, how many times does a college student choose a college not just because of the sport program, but the coach who's at that sport program?
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Man. Like I'm sure that a lot of the kids that went to Duke for basketball, not only do they have a good program, but the coach who teaches basketball there teaches life there as well.
Oh yeah, that's when you're a college coach. A whole lot of it of the recruitment is selling on you're turning the the boys going to college and the men leaving college when they do finally leave. And Mike Krzyzewski of Duke was huge with that. And how many coaches do you hear or players do you hear talk about their coaches like that from a collegiate level? And it's always the Mike Krzyzewskis or, the ones that had the long-term stays, the John Woodens from back in the 70s,
Yeah, and the reality is that most of us are just normal people trying to make it in this world. And so a lot of times what I do doesn't motivate someone like someone outside of a relationship motivates.
Yeah, I agree.
So, it was that it takes a village kind of thing. Like, if you're not getting the motivation from home or you have bad influences at home, sometimes it's outside of those influences. Say, look, just because you're born in it doesn't mean you have to stay in it. And,
exactly.
And so you have an opportunity to take some, 11 to 13-year-olds or 12 to 14-year-olds and maybe give them the next step up to say, oh, I want to do something different, or I want to make a change in my path.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's kind of the idea. But, the side point is I can really get a lot of stress relief done by yelling at people, yelling at kids playing the game, trying to get the game right, and in the vision of Coach Pemberton and myself. So I'm looking forward to that too. I think some tough coaching will be good on these kids.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. Nowadays, it's a hit or miss. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Some kids react poorly to it. Some kids react positively to it. So,
and that's fine. If the kids end up reacting poorly to it, I didn't want them on the team anyway.
Oh, okay. So it's all about you then. All about you and the coach. Got it.
That's what it is, though, man.
Jeez, you sound like Bobby Knight, dude.
Well, that's what it is, though.
That's about me. Don't screw the kids.
Isn't that what coaching is, though? If you can't learn to be a part of a team and take the coaching and the criticism, and it's just about you, I mean, isn't that part of the problem? If the kids can't take the tough love, man, they can't blossom in the pressure of the moment.
Maybe the balance is that you give the tough love, but they recognize that it is actually love, because a lot of kids look at it as he's just being mean to me. He's just being hurtful to me. They don't look at it.
It's the Bruce Arians method of coach them hard and love them later.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, I'll be interested to see how that goes. Because I think it's very important to be a coach that brings out positive, and hopefully none of these kids turn to goth and drugs because of your coaching.
Well, if that happens, they were always.
That's not on you, right? That's not on you.
Let's be real. If they were, it's junior high baseball, not the majors. So
right.
If they wanted to experiment and go to be goths or whatever else, chances are that was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think of myself when I was a kid. I took piano lessons, and by the time I got to about 12 or 13, I was actually a pretty accomplished classical piano player. But at that age, I started to get to the point where I wanted my teacher to teach me more than just reading sheet music. And I just didn't have the right teacher. So instead of trying to find the right teacher, I just quit playing piano. Yeah, not a day goes by in my older days that I look at that and said, man, see, my parents are probably saying, well, he has the right to make his own decisions about what he should or shouldn't do. And a different kind of parent would have said, no, we'll find you a different teacher, but you're not quitting the piano because this is what you're going to do.
Yeah, Tom and I both took piano lessons into, I think, our early teens and whatever else. And we both we were never really into it. Our parents wanted us to do it. Our mom wanted us to do it. But I think looking back now, we're in the same boat you are. We kind of wish we would have stuck with it on a different level, just because that's a cool little just gift to have in your adult years. But I started playing, baseball a little later than most kids. And I liked it, man. I really loved playing baseball. And I was in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. Yeah. And I had that one bad coach. And this is probably why I'm very excited to coach middle school. When I played in 7th grade, I had a coach that pretty much turned me off for playing baseball for years, even softball. Like, he was such a terrible, I also say a terrible person. He'd say one thing and then just do the opposite of it, and picked favorites for the kids. And that's a very impressionable age. And just treated, the kids that weren't as athletic, and I was one of those kids. You guys are the bench players, and if you get in the game, you'll be lucky. And it was Little League. It wasn't like we were playing on the school team. It was Little League still. So, coaches and mentors like that who do more to hurt you with your love of the game I think that's probably where this is coming from too.
Yeah, well, and I think that there is a balance because there's probably half the kids that were starting all the time, that were like appreciative that the coach said, no, I'm going to keep my best players in and do that. And so you're right. There's a balancing act there because, what is your function? If it's just simply to win, then yeah, why would you ever put any players that don't allow you to do that? But if coaching is more about mentoring and teaching the sport and, growing the love of a sport to a child, then he did a major disservice.
Exactly. And that's, but I guess that was 30 years ago almost. So, 28, 29, 30 years ago. But still, I mean, it left that much of an impression on me to where, I was done with it forever. And I don't want, yep. I don't ever want to see a kid not like a sport because of a coach. And that's where a big piece of this still comes for me to go out and do this.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting that that's kind of spurring you on to do better than what was done to you?
And that's an interesting revelation I just put together in this conversation too. So if it seems kind of sidetracked, that's kind of where it came from. I unrepressed a repressed memory there for a minute, and it all makes sense now.
Well, I think that happens quite a bit. I mean, I've always been kind of on the fence about, well, if I grew up in a bad environment at home, then a bad environment is going to be my home when I become an adult. I kind of have a balancing act because if the situation was really that bad, then why would you want to replicate that?
Yeah.
If it was better than what you're saying and you're just being a jerk to be a jerk, then that's another problem. Like, you have a choice to do that. But how often do things affect us that we don't even recognize consciously? Maybe this is one of those things.
And that's exactly it, man. And being around a 10 and a 6-year-old all the time now really kind of changes your perspective on things. And I'll be honest, man. Trying to raise girls are hard, especially when they're not yours.
I mean, I think that it's hard because every child, you could have the same exact mother. Every child is different. Every child requires a different push of the buttons, motivation. It's tough. And as a parent, you have to decide how to do that.
You got to thread that needle. And we've been having, and I wouldn't call it issues, but with a 10-year-old, man, it's been, the last few weeks have been rough. Like, she's lost privileges, and trying to get her, you got to take things away to remind them that, you have to do good in school to get to have some of these luxuries, like a cell phone or even taking the bus home, not going to daycare. And, she's lost those privileges. And then Friday night, we had a whole meltdown over, her sister was with her dad this weekend, of her having to sleep in a room by herself, which has never been a problem before. But, there's something under the bed. They have loft beds, so everything's under their bed. There's someone in the closet, or, someone's going to break in, and all these irrational fears that just start popping out. Like, where the fuck is this coming from? So you have to figure out how to get them to confront that without being completely dickish. And there's a lot to it, man. I have a whole new respect for parents on that level of trying to figure out those personalities and thread that needle. So try not to cripple the kid, but still get the kid to grow mentally and emotionally from these situations.
Yeah, it's not a task for the weary, that's for sure. I obviously live with Noreen, so she's got 2 sons. Both of them are totally different from each other, but both of them are good men. They're working adults that they value family, and they value the things that are important. And I said, Noreen, what did you do? What was the secret? She goes, I don't know. Rich and I did our best. We just did our thing, and it just happened to be that our 2 kids worked out. So there you go, right there. Came from the same parents, lived in the same house, raised with the same rules. Totally opposites. They're total opposites.
That's how Tom and I are, though, too. We're completely different in a lot of ways, and I'm sure Noreen's boys are the same way. For as different as they are, you put them in a room together, you see those similarities shine through very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just a testament, like you were saying, being a parent is definitely not easy. Especially with everything that the parents have to deal with nowadays, that, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you and our parents didn't have to deal with that crap.
No, I agree. And then if you go back and talk to our grandparents, they would say when they were raising our parents, they'd have to deal with half the shit that our parents had to deal with. So it's just the evolution of the human species. But man, the other interesting thing I figured about that is when I talk to my parents about this stuff and just vent, my mom has complete revisionist history of how things were when my brother and I were growing up. And I think it's just because she's older, she doesn't give a fuck. She completely tells her version of how things happened to the girls to try to you just tell them, to show them that, hey, growing up's hard. This is what he did. And I have to tell her when they're not around, it's like, that's not what happened. Like, you got to watch what you say because that's not doing us any favors. But, I don't think she cares because it's not her responsibility.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
I mean, it's at that point, it's like, hey, you're being bad. Okay, go back to mommy,
Yeah. Like, oh, he punished you for that. Well, when he was your age, he did this. It's like, that's not what happened at that age. So,
gosh,
Will Smith is right. Sometimes parents just don't understand.
They just don't understand. Well, I did something over the weekend that you'll be proud of me on doing. I reaffirmed that I am not a professional poker player.
Oh, good for you.
I had an opportunity this weekend to play in a tournament at one of the casinos. I was kind of just, I haven't played poker in a while. I'd like to play some poker. I want to go play poker. So, and some people can make a living doing that. They go and they play poker and do very well. And I thought, well, I'm going to go join a tournament. And how tournaments work, for those of you who don't maybe know how poker works, is you have an initial buy-in of a set amount of chips that everyone has the same set amount. And you basically play cards until one person is left. That person then wins whatever the bucket of money was, a portion of that bucket of money. So it was a $25 buy-in. I said, okay, I'm going to go. So I bought in at $25. Now, when you go, you sit at a table, and then when people leave the table because they lost their money, then you get reassigned. Well, at the second time, I got reassigned to a table, and a guy started yelling at me from across the table because of a misunderstanding on his part, but a misunderstanding nonetheless. So the guy next to me and him were in a hand. I was in the hand for a little bit. The guy next to me raised and got me out of the hand. If I had waited till the very end, the card that I needed to win the hand would have came up and I would have won the hand. But the guy across the table from us, he lost the hand to the guy next to me. And he was really upset because it was a really big pot.
Yeah.
I leaned over because they have plexiglass for everyone now, so there's no social distancing as much as they can. I leaned around the glass. I said, you made a really good bet there, because had you not raised, I would have stayed and I would have won that hand. He goes, oh, that's good. The guy across the table yells at me, says, hey, don't talk about my hand. Okay. Don't be an asshole. I was like, what? So I walked around to where he was. I go, what did you say? He goes, I heard what you said about my hand. Don't be an asshole. I said, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. And then the dealer had to get in. But I got into a fight at the poker tables, dude.
Damn, dude.
I know. And I didn't even do anything. So that was the first experience that I thought, yeah, I'm not a professional poker player. Second is I was at that table for 5.5 hours.
Wow.
And I lost. I got knocked out. And I was in the final third there was 125 people, and I made it to like the 40th spot, and I got knocked out. So
that's still pretty good though.
I sat there for 5.5 hours and basically lost $25. Now I don't know about how your job works, but I waste 5.5 hours. They pay me an hourly salary that I can make that pay my bills.
Yeah, the way I see it, if I paid $25 for 5 hours worth of entertainment on a Saturday afternoon, I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, and if I had made it to the top 15 people, the lowest of the 15, because the top 15 people got paid, so the lowest of them would have gotten $300 for the $25.
Yeah, see, that's not bad.
Buy-in. So I got close, but the other thing is, oh my gosh, some of these people, they're the epitome of what you would think of. I don't want to say degenerate gambler, but you would think of the person that says, all I do is play poker all day long.
Ugh.
They were not very well kept. You know, they gambled very, very erratically. There were some old ladies at the table that looked like what you would expect an Asian gambler to look like. You know, real old, beautiful diamonds and gold and jewelry all over her playing poker. And I was like, oh boy, eye-opening experience. I don't need a coach to tell me that I am not a professional poker player.
Hey, you know what though? You got out there and you did it, and that's half the battle, though, man. You learn that at 49 years old.
That's right,
and that's fine. You don't have to be. You have other talents, but you can still go out there and enjoy it every so often.
I had a friend who, for 12 months, actually was supporting himself through playing, gambling. And I thought that was kind of cool. I mean, I like playing poker recreationally, so I thought it's kind of neat. My friend is doing this. But that experience on this weekend, no, that's not that's not my interest. I couldn't imagine spending 12 hours a day playing cards. Because I don't know if you play poker a lot, but there are some tedious times too where you're not getting any cards, so you're just mucking everything into the pot or into the middle of the table, and it gets boring.
You've played poker with me a few times, and there's no way in hell I could ever be a professional poker player. I don't have the attention span.
No, that's why I'm kind of excited to hear more about this coaching for baseball, because you do have an energy level that I think the kids would like. You do have a realism as an adult, talking to them not as kids but as adults. Like, I'm not going to treat you like a kid. I'm going to treat you like an adult. So, maybe this will be the thing that you inspire these kids to do something great. I know that the poker thing did not inspire me to change my career anytime soon.
Well, I don't think this will change me to encourage me to change my career. But worst case scenario is we have a local version of the Bad News Bears, and I'm a modern day William Buttermaker.
So when you're coaching a middle school like that, do they play the other middle schools in the county?
Yeah, JP said that I don't think we really have to leave the county. I think it's mostly just the other two schools in town. And I think maybe Bullhead, Mojave Valley, maybe Havasu.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's not
that
big.
And you and JP used to do our coach or captain our softball team, and JP's a pretty good baseball person, and he knows how to play.
I mean, yeah, but someone's got to do the yelling on the field. And,
yeah.
It's not going to be
good cop, bad cop kind of deal. You're going to good cop, bad cop it?
Yeah, and I'm going to end up being the good cop more than not, because if you've ever played any kind of sport with him, you understand how it goes. Yes. He's gonna get mad, and he's gonna Lou Piniella that shit and get thrown out of games. And I'm not sure you can do that in middle school baseball.
Maybe not. But you'll be there. You'll be the coach to carry over.
If he doesn't, I will. So let's be honest. Just my temper is just as bad as his. I just hold it better.
There's that movie. Have you ever seen the movie Mr. Holland's Opus?
Yeah.
Where he's a musician. He's trying to write an opus basically, and he needs money, so he becomes a music teacher, and it spans 30 years of a career that he basically didn't want to have anything to do with in the beginning, but then kind of reluctantly went through. And I'm always touched by the end where he has his orchestra made up of all of his former students. Some of them have done well, and some of them are just normal people, but everyone, comes back to he's retiring. And Scott, you have the opportunity that you might be that person that someone might someday say, you know what, I'm where I am because in middle school, I had Coach Kern who, kind of motivated me to do things the right way. And I'm excited for you to maybe have that kind of impact.
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves just yet. Let's actually get to January when it starts and see what happens.
Okay.
But I do appreciate the support, the emotional support on that.
Yes, you have it from me, buddy.
So as we wrap up today, I won't be
able to win you any money at poker, but I'll give you the mental, emotional support you need.
That's all I need to hear. So, as we get closer to wrapping up today's show, I do want to give a special shout out to our friend and former guest on the show, Andy Williams, as she embarks on her new quest and new walkabout in her life. Andy is free of all obligations, and she is choosing to go wander the country until she finds where she wants to be. So it's a great adventure for her. I'm excited for her. So Andy, if you're listening to this somewhere on the road between here in Texas or here in Missouri, we miss you and good luck. That being said, if you have any growth things that you learned about yourself as you became an adult, things that you learned that you didn't know you'd ever do or find yourself secretly liking, We want to hear about it. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all at Liquid Carnage. Or if you have some fall hobby ideas for our EP Tom in the Colorado Denver metro area, hit him up on Instagram and Twitter at liquid_EP.
Yeah, it sounds like a pretty exciting journey. You know, we talked about that when that a podcast a long time ago. It's, oh, it would have been awesome to get in a van and just travel around and not care. So kudos to Andy. I mean, she deserves to have a journey like that. And I know that she'll come out at the other end exactly where she needs to be. So,
and that's what she's looking for. So we wish her the best.
Awesome. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. We really appreciate you. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what to say, just have yourself some Liquid Carnage.